Once everyone gets on to the next stage, it'll be easier to tidy. So what you're going to do, can you tell me, Alice, which is the left and the right, remembering that they're okay? Sweet. So what you're going to do at this point is match, pick your left and right. So decide which outsides you like the most, because people will see that. So here at Alice's last. So what we've done is we've tapped some insole board to the last. This line here is 20 mils. So you remember you had that, you drawn that 20 mil lasting allowance. And we've got 6 pulls, which are numbered here. So the first thing you're going to do, you can do this, is you're going to sprinkle talcum powder on the top of your last, not on the side. So the talcum powder, so just like that. So it just helps helps it slide over the last. Okay, so up is on first, and then the last. So this stage of forming the shoe is super important, and it is quite an art. So in Japan, where I did some of my training, my sensei, who's a master, doesn't actually do any of the closing, so it's done by his apprentice. And his job, it's all of his designs, but his job is to do the lasting and shaping the heels. So just to put it in context for quarters. So the first pull you're going to do is, oh no, we're going to wet it, aren't we? Would you, there's some water outside, thank you. So what we're going to do is we're going to wet this Vegetan counter. So Vegetan leather is tanned with vegetable base tannins, like wood bark and things like that, and it can be moulded, it can be wet and moulded. So anything that's tooled, like the 70s belts and bags, that's all using Vegetan leather. And everything that we've used pretty much for your upper shoes is chrome tan leather, and it's tanned with heavy metals. So chrome tan leather, you get the fantastic colours and all the moulding, like this faux lizard, but it can't be wet and shaped. So we're just going to wet it, because as we form the shoe, it'll dry to the shape of the last. And over time, the more you wear them, all the heat and moisture of your feet will mean that they'll mould to your feet. There's a really great company called Henderson, which is Japanese. You know them? Yeah, giving some nods. So they make athletic shoes out of Vegetan leather, and they quite often have time-lapse photographs or videos of the shoes just gradually moulding to the wearer's feet, and the leather changes colour as well. So, upper on, last on, and then the first pull is number 1, and it's actually to 25 mils. So you just pretty much place it, and I've made up these little jars of nails. So you're going to grab, there's 2 kinds of nails, there's longer nails and short black nails, but we're going to grab the long nail to start with. We're going to check where the centre back seam is of yours, because it might not be where the back strap is, but in your case it looks like it is. Make sure the tongue isn't caught. Here we go. So I'm actually going to put 2 tacks in, one either side of the back seam. Don't do that. So the straighter you put the nail in, the tighter it's going to be. It's not going to wobble around. Hey Gemma, could you grab me some pliers with sharper teeth, like one on my face? Thank you. there are enough pliers to go around, but I have different pliers for different jobs. So the pliers, so you could swap with your neighbour. The pliers with a broad nose are really good for doing pulls 1 through to 6, and then after that we're going to be pleating the leather a little bit, and you're going to want to have narrow nose pliers. Yeah, but because I've got first dibs, please in my face. This one I like. Well, these ones are great because they've got really sharp teeth, but sometimes they can break your leather. They can actually tear, so you have to watch out for that. And then these ones are my second favourite, but they're good for finer leathers because the teeth are these are so old that the teeth have worn down. So, right, so lasting pliers. This is a hammer, but it's also a lever. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab the upper and that lining together, and you're going to put the hammer on the base of your shoe and use it to lever the leather up. So you pull towards the ceiling. So just grab a little bit more. So the butt of the hammer is on the insole board, and I'm pulling up towards the ceiling. When I've pulled as much as I think I can, that's when I'm going to pull back to lock. So things that can go wrong when you're lasting is you can pull like this and the leather isn't going to move anywhere because you're just locking it in place. The other thing that's not good is this. It's going to be really hard to last without that hammer on the insole, and you're probably going to hurt your shoulder. You're going to have a tough time. So you just put it on the insole and pull up, and then make sure that the insole hasn't risen with the leather. Back to lock. And for this tack, that's not good coordination, we'll grab one of these little black tacks because they're sharper.
So there's the short ones, yeah.
Yeah. Those black tacks sometimes don't get through all of that leather. Okay. So now what you do is you look down at your shoe and you're just checking that everything is super straight. This might be a problem, but if it's a problem, you can just take it off and make this a little bit higher. Because this is a size 6, it's pretty cute, and it's you don't have, yeah, I think that looks straight. But what you're looking to see is that the quarters are straight down the cone of glass, which is this bit. You can also check at this point the laces aren't too tight or too loose, and the quarters should snap to the ankle. It might be just this leather though. It should be nice and tight. So that's point 1 to point 2. I will show you 3 and 4. So once I've okayed, or Gemma's okayed, pole number 2, then you're going to move on to 3 and 4. So 3 and 4 are the widest part of the last. You can pull either side. So the first time you pull, just pull with the 20mm lasting allowance, because there's nothing anchoring up on the other side, so you don't have to pull too hard. The second time you can pull a little bit harder, so make sure you're pulling the nail against the opposite nail. So I'll just show you as well this time. When I last, I'll show you the coordination I've developed for putting the hammer down and picking up the nail, because sometimes that confuses people. So here we go. So I'm pulling up to the ceiling with the hammer on the insole board, and you try and get it as tight as you possibly can. So I'm going to pull a little bit more. So at this point I'm using this hand to push the leather down and in place, to keep it in place. I dropped the lasting plier and I put the nail in between 2 fingers. Okay, so now you can see your shoe. Collé. So I I think what you want is for there to be no movement in there. And there's no movement in there. But, Alice, I think that I reckon you could pull a little bit more that way. Because can you see that the quarters are the whole shoe is ever so slightly that way. And you need to pull it back that way. And this leather should have a bit of stretch in it that it can do that. The tighter it is, the more it's going to stay in shape once it's off the last. Because if you think about it, you're pulling the leather to its maximum stretch. If you last it really loosely, it'll be loose as soon as it comes off and it won't hold its shape. So yeah.
So they're all toe puffs then?
No, they'll go in afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so we'll glue down up to 3 and 4 and then put the toe puff in. Yeah. Cool. And another thing that I have to tell you is that there's chocolate over there and we can go and get more chocolate because this is the point where it can drive you a little bit nuts as so we'll
Just came out smiling.
Yeah. But it can be a bit frustrating. Yeah. It tacks, a short tacks with a long tack. You're also going to replace the 2 back tacks with a single tack. So just be really careful of this tool, be really wary because it's got a sharp point, and if it misses the nail and comes off, you're putting a lot of pressure into a sharp point that might contact your hand. So always keep your hand underneath and out of the path of this. So you're putting the nail close to the feather edge of the last, which is the very edge. And I'm just about to explain why. So remove this. So this is a hammer that's for shoemaking. It's got a round face. I've had it polished, so don't hit any nails with it. But what we're going to do is hammer the vegetarian cutter, and we're going to soften the fibres so that it's easy to wrap around the base of your last. See how it's going right down? Now you're going to take out the little black tacks. So we're going to glue each shoe in 3 parts. You're going to lift the leather up around the tack. So that you can get the glue in there. Okay, so now you can see the insole board from points 5 to 6. You see that Sharpie around. Gina, could you pass me a colour? You're going to glue from points 5 and 6 on the lasting allowance, that 20 ml allowance there, and on the counter, the vegetarian counter. So just the vegetarian counter and points 5 and 6. So make sure you get glue right to the very edge. Don't put so much glue that it's never really going to dry, but if you don't put any glue, it just won't stick. So it has to be glued carefully, I suppose, mindfully. And if you push too much glue down here, it's going to be visible, so you'll be able to see it on the inside of the shoe. So yeah, So there you go, it's the next stage. And let me know if the glue gets runny, and if you leave the lid off, or you see the lid being left off the glue, put it straight back on, because that's what's going to make your job a lot easier this afternoon. Fresh glue.
And let that glue dry before you see the
Yes, don't do anything without me.
Okay.
Yeah.